Jason 10, Jivian 9, Osho 8, Sheram 7, Shesh 6, Pien 5, Ter 4, Shesh 3, Dwa 2.
Hello, this is Jason. In my previous video, I covered using multiple layered music in MovieShop with nested timelines. I also went over the audio crossfade options in the MovieShop timeline, and you see a visual representation of that audio crossfade. You may have been wondering about these lines. Is there any more that you can do with these? And the answer is yes. And we're going to go over that in this video. Zapraszamy. I'm just going to scoot down past what we did previously to an open spot on the timeline and drag the first audio clip out of my samples list, my sounds list, into the timeline. If you double click on any clip that has audio associated with it, whether it's an audio only clip or a video clip with audio, you get this pop-up window. It's labeled as envelope. Before, I had just used the mute option. In this case, as I mute something, it changes the audio render status in the timeline on and off. If we click on edit envelope, that gives us some additional features. We have a master volume control with a percentage from 0 to 100. We have a start and end. And if I lower my start, you can see a line, a diagonal going across my audio. And it's dropping on the left side, the current start position. If I adjust the end slider back and forth, you can see the diagonal tilting in the other direction. If I make them about equal, the line is horizontal. Let me bring those both back up to 100. I want to go into my settings to change my stamp size to make this a larger representation so we have more room to work. Poczekaj. When I go up to the menu, I can't seem to get the menu open. This sometimes happens in MovieShop depending on what mode you're in. In this case, when the audio envelope window is open, I can't do anything but work within the audio envelope. So I need to cancel that. Then I can open up my miscellaneous settings and access my stamps. If you go into miscellaneous settings and you don't see this, make sure you're clicked on the Stamps tab. Let's go back to that audio envelope for a moment. Sometimes as you're working and a window like this envelope window is open, or maybe it's a requester or something else that's demanding MovieShop's attention, but this window is open and it gets pushed to the background behind another window, and MovieShop appears to be not responding. It's not necessarily locked up. You may think that initially, but it could be that MovieShop is still within a mode that needs to be exited before you can continue doing other functions. You may need to push windows around to see if there's something hidden on your screen. I'm just going to click on Use. Let's go back to the stamp window after that little diversion. If I click on Small or None, it changes the size of the clips in the window. It's on the extra large setting right now. I'll move this up and click on Edit Envelope. What we couldn't see before when the track was smaller was this horizontal line. Within the audio envelope, we can set keyframes by clicking in here. We can add a point and adjust it up and down however we like. Maybe you have a voiceover with music in the background and you want to not mute the music but just sort of dip the music down a little bit when the voice comes in and then bring it back up. You can do that with these control points, these different keyframes within the audio envelope. At this large setting for my stamps, you can't move the keyframes all the way to the top and bottom. It's just working in this middle section. If I switch this to small, and I can't until I exit, I can click on use, then switch to small. And you may need to readjust your display when you change these sizes. You can see the audio envelope control points occupy the same physical space, but it looks larger because the actual clip itself is smaller. When the timeline stamp setting is set to none, it fills up the entire thing. If you start off in this mode with the smallest setting, you won't see that horizontal line for the audio envelope adjustments, but it starts off riding along the top. I like to be in either small or large stamp mode when I'm working with the audio envelopes. Let's go back up to the audio envelope window. Here's where start and end may make a little bit more sense. Let's click on this control point. You can see most of the line in the audio envelope is black, but one section is red. When you're adjusting start and end, it's referring to the control points at either end of this red segment. If I want to bring the first point up, I can use this slider, or I can grab the control point here in the timeline and adjust it up and down. Using the slider gives me a little bit more fine control and precision over the position and value of the control point that I may not have if I'm just doing this adjustment within this tiny little space on the timeline. Similarly, if I adjust the end slider, it's moving up and down the control point on the end of the red segment. If I go and click on another control point, now the red segment has moved to the center, and the adjustments for those control points have moved. When I had no control points initially and there's just a solid horizontal line across the screen, the start point by default is at the beginning and end of the clip. So when I adjusted the start point, I just get a diagonal going across either way. Whether I'm adjusting the start or end point, I'm adjusting points on the very end or beginning of my clip until I add additional control points. While you're adding control points to the audio envelope, you may find times when you make an adjustment or an addition and you decide that you don't want this point here anymore. If I want to remove this control point, this node, I bring it back down to where it's on an equal horizontal line between two control points before and after. And then this whole segmented area just joins into a single line. If I take a point here in the middle and say I don't want that one, I'll drag it up to the top and release, and you can see that we just have one segment here instead of two. here are my two segments. I'm dragging it up. Now it's horizontal, I release, and it's gone. That's essentially how you go about deleting control points. While you're editing audio in MovieShop 4, you can only adjust the overall volume of your audio clips using the audio envelope features. Other edit systems will usually give you an option to have a visual representation of your audio clip. You would see some sort of waveform inside the audio clip on your timeline. That's not something available in MovieShop 4. MovieShop 5 for the Draco did add a waveform option to allow you to edit audio easier. If you need more control over manipulating your audio samples than what you have within MovieShop, you can export the audio samples to another Amiga application. There are many audio editing applications available for Amiga that have a waveform, that have many additional features that aren't available in MovieShop. SAMPLITUDE is one audio editing application that MacroSystem distributed. I loaded the same audio clip that I was adjusting in my timeline in MovieShop into SAMPLITUDE, and you can see the waveform here. You may recognize this, it's from the game Agony. The music starts off and it sounds a little bit like the theme to HBO's recent Westworld series. Go look that one up if you haven't seen it yet, listen to it, and then re-listen to this. That's not the entire clip, but you get the idea. And to me it does sound a little bit like Westworld, or Westworld theme sounds a little bit like the music from Agony. This is SAMPLITUDE version 3.0. There were several versions released after this, and the developer eventually released SAMPLITUDE for free. SAMPLITUDE Opus is something that you may want to look for if you're interested in this particular application for your Amiga. There was also a version of SAMPLITUDE released on one of the Amiga magazine cover discs, so you may be able to find that if you want a physical copy of something. Another popular program is Audio Master. And on the higher professional end of audio editing, there was an application called ProStation Audio from Audio Labs. If you go to archive.org's Wayback Machine and look up audiolabs.it, you can find their old website if you want to see what ProStation Audio could do. And those are just three different examples that come to mind. There are a lot more. If you ask in any of the Amiga forums, then you'll probably get half a dozen suggestions within MovieShop 4.3. You need to listen to things by ear. You need to maybe look at level settings on your audio equipment, or you can add a level meter to the audio output from your Toccata card to get a visual representation as the audio is being played. I have one and I will show that later at some point. You can see a little snippet of it, I think, in my audio test video that I did, the first of the MovieShop videos in this series. In summary, you can use audio envelopes within the MovieShop timeline to make custom volume adjustments to any of your audio clips. It is recommended that you adjust the size of the stamps in the timeline so that you have a larger control area that increases the visibility of the control points and the control segments within the audio envelope. If you want to delete a control point, line it up between two existing control points so that you get an even line all the way across and it will pop out of existence. If you want to do more refined control, you can export your audio to another application, like a few that I mentioned, Samplitude, Audio Master 4, ProStation Audio. There are a lot of options out there and you can find the one that meets your needs.
To już wszystko na dzisiaj.
And that's it for audio envelopes. Thank you for watching.
Dziękuję bardzo za oglądanie.
Please click like and subscribe. And I'll see you again in the next one.
A jeśli podobał się ten video, koniecznie daj mi łapkę w górę i zasubskrybuj mój kanał.
Do zobaczenia. Pa, pa.